It's pear season and our pears are in. I thought I'd take you along for the journey. Stick around, we'll see how it goes. We have our water heating in our water bath canner. We haven't made it too hot, just nice and warm so it'll match the temperature of the inside of the jars. We have our grape juice warming up. We are using both white grape juice as well as we have made some of them with light honey syrup. My husband prefers the light honey syrup. My children and I prefer the white grape juice. We've got our jars heating up in the oven. So we've gathered everything we need. We're going to put the pears in the jars. And they say to put your pears about 3/4 inch and then fill up to 1/2 inch. I'm just going to wipe the rim. Hand tighten and set it aside. So just thought I would mention, our pears were smaller, but it took us about 5 pears, 4.5 to 5 pears per jar. Obviously it depends on how they pack in. And then 1 jar of white grape juice did 8 jars. So basically 2 jars will do our 16, so our full batch. We're just on our last few jars. Get them in the canner before the water gets too hot. And took us about 3 to 3.5 hours, I think. We're just going to place our jars in the water. You want to make sure the ingredients in the jar itself is not too far off of the water temperature so they don't crack. have room for one more at least. I have a little bit of pear left over. I might fit one more in there. So always pushing the limits with this canner. I started with 15 the first batch, and now I can see that I could stagger these and fit a lot more in there. But we are out of pears, we are out of white grape juice. It worked out pretty much perfectly to do our 17 jars. So now we're going to put the lid on and going to try to make a big fire and get this thing boiling. I didn't want to forget to mention that I'm going to add a little bit of hot water so that we want an inch or two on top of the jars. So I've just kind of preheated it so that it comes to a boil faster, and that should be enough. So as you can see, we have reached a rolling boil. We're going to begin our time. 20 minutes for 500 milliliter jars. For our elevation, it's going to be 24 minutes. So when the time was up, we just lifted the one end and put a trivet underneath. And then we lifted the other end. I'm going to do this if I can do it myself. It's quite heavy, so you can only really do one end at a time. And then we put a trivet underneath. Then we propped open the lid for a little while. And now I'm just going to add a little bit of cool water. Not directly on the jars. I'm going to just pour it where there is no jars. And then I'm going to do that a little bit more so it cools the water just a little bit more. We don't want them siphoning. And you can see as they boiled, we could definitely fit more jars in there.
Yeah, they were really bouncing around in there.
So now that I've cooled the water down a bit, I'll take them out. You can see they're not boiling, so they are not going to siphon. And we just want to lay them on something so they're not on the cold counter. Remember to give them a little bit of space so the jars don't tap, also so they can cool. And it's best to keep them upright from taking them out of the pot to putting them down because they haven't sealed yet. So you want to remember to just leave the jars here and let them sit. They will seal over time. You want to keep them in a draft-free location, and you want to just let them naturally seal. So they will cool down in their own time and they will seal, and then check on them later. If I do it in the evening, I'll just leave them overnight and check in the morning. If they're not sealed, I'll just pop them in the fridge, or you can recan them. But since we did them around lunchtime, we'll just check on them this evening. Before packing them up, once they've cooled, we will take the rings off. I will just wipe them all with vinegar, because I found that if I'm storing them in the root cellar and there's humidity, sometimes they won't mold on the inside, but they will mold on the outside. So that's one way to just guarantee, and it seems to be working for us. And you don't want to leave the rings on. They can rust and stuff. So yeah. As you can see, we still have lots of pears left over. The ones that are enclosed in the box are staying greener longer, which will give us a little bit of time to work with things. So next, I think we'll be doing pear jam.